talk about my wonderful daughter who is going to be shaving her hair to raise money for leukemia.
And I get to dye his hair a funky color.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
If you raise more than $1,000, then you can do it, okay?
I already have.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Oh. Hey, everyone.
Welcome back to the channel.
Weren't you supposed to have your head shaved?
Aren't you supposed to have your hair colored? Mine's tomorrow.
I think that's tomorrow too.
Hey guys, this is me.
Wow, your hair looks short.
Wow, your hair looks pink.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone who commented what color I should do his hair. It's like a light weird pink. And thank you to everyone who donated. Anyway, back on the video.
Okay. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. This one is from a camping trip that we did down south, where we were staying on a farm for a couple of nights. I figured it would give me the perfect opportunity to capture a couple of shots. At least that was the plan. In my head, it all felt pretty straightforward. Clear skies, good foregrounds, and hopefully a couple of images I'd be happy with. But almost straight away, things started to go wrong. The first problem was the weather. The forecast was for some clear skies, but on the first night, there was nothing. It was all clouded over. There was no stars. There was no Milky Way. That's always pretty frustrating. You can plan everything, but there's always a chance of something going wrong that you can't control. A forecast helps, but there's no guarantee. And at that stage, I wasn't too worried. I still had another night. The next problem was completely on me. I decided to shoot a sunset time-lapse, something that I've done many times before. I set up the camera, put it into aperture priority, took a test shot, clicked on the camera to start it going, and then walked away. However, when I checked the camera afterwards, I'd realized that I'd messed up. I hadn't properly checked that the camera was actually taking the shots for a time-lapse. So instead of a sequence of shots, I just got one. This was really annoying because it was something so simple. Nothing had really failed. I just made the assumption that the camera was in the right mode, that it was properly set up, and then just walked away. But the lesson here was to slow down and check the basics. Next time I try and do a time lapse, I'll be making sure that it's set up in the right mode and that the interval is set correctly. I'll be checking the exposure and make sure that it's actually doing what I think it's doing. Spending 10 seconds to do a final check can save the whole shot. One of the shots that I've wanted to try for a while is a time lapse where the sky stands still and the earth kind of moves through the frame, showing how the earth actually rotates while everything else is actually standing still. I had some spare time, so I figured I'd give it a bit of a test. I'd wanted to do this for a while, so I was actually pretty excited to test it out. I set up the star tracker, I got my camera all set up, set it into time-lapse mode, made sure that it was actually taking multiple shots this time, but then I ran into another problem. I hadn't checked that the SD card was empty and that the battery was fully charged. I'd left the camera out for a couple of hours, assuming that it was capturing an epic time-lapse, but it wasn't. This was about the time where I started questioning my own ability and wondering why did I even get the camera out in the first place. So that was part of the next lesson. A lot of the success of a shoot really depends on the preparation beforehand. Charge the batteries, check the SD card, check the gear, and do all the boring stuff first. Because once that special moment hits, you may not get a second chance, and it's always worthwhile doing the preparation beforehand. By this point, the trip was already starting to feel a bit messy, but I decided to step it up a little bit. I decided to head down an uncharted sandy road, thinking maybe I can get a nice foreground for a Milky Way shot. Maybe finding the perfect foreground shot would have made me forget all the mistakes I'd already made during the trip. But that's when the car got bogged in the sand. Normally, when I'm going down a road like this, I would have let the tire pressure down, but this time I didn't. And so it became less about the photography now and more about just getting back to camp. There was little else around, and even though I could have walked back to camp, it would have been a long and quiet walk. Luckily, I had my recovery gear with me. So after a lot of digging and reflecting that I was glad that I didn't drive down this road at night time, I did manage to get the car out. And that's another good reminder that when you go remote, it's always worth being prepared. It's not just the lenses and the tripods, it's recovery gear, it's reading the terrain, and knowing when you might just be pushing your luck a little bit too far. Missing a photo is frustrating, but getting stranded, that's a much bigger problem. But the biggest issue was yet to come. Somebody that was traveling with us had a fall. We didn't realize how serious it was until later, when we found out that they'd actually broken their wrist. Thankfully, we had a first aid kit, so we were able to bandage them up, keep things steady until we were able to get them to a hospital. That really put things in perspective. The missed shots, the bad weather, mistakes with the gear, and getting bogged, that all felt pretty minor compared to somebody actually getting hurt. So the biggest lesson was, if you're out in remote areas, it always pays to be prepared. It's not just about the photography. A proper first aid kit, some basic first aid knowledge, and a bit of a plan really matter. This stuff is just as important, if not more so, than the camera gear. When I look back on the trip now, I don't really see it as a failure. A lot went wrong, more than I expected, but everything that happened taught me something. Sure, I would have enjoyed a trip with much less problems, but I would not have learned as much. And comment down below if you've ever been on a trip where everything just went wrong. It might actually make me feel a little bit better about my trip. And if you've gotten this far, just to say thanks, there is one more lesson. The good part is that this wasn't the end. A few months later, I actually went back to the same location. This time, I was better prepared. I had much better knowledge of the area, and I knew the shot that I wanted to get. This old rusted car framed exactly the way I imagined it. It felt good, but it was more just satisfying to actually get that shot. So just to sum up, sometimes that shot that you're after doesn't work out the way you think it was going to. Sometimes it takes some mistakes, another trip, and a lot of lessons learned. But when it all comes together, it just means that little bit more. So in the end, the trip that went wrong gave me the image that I was after. It just took a little bit longer than expected. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you out there next time. Thankfully, we had fuck's sake, keep things stable until we were able, sure, I would have preferred a trip which,